So welcome everybody to the 2021 BC Golf Education Summit. I'm got the pleasure here of interviewing Nick Taylor to talk to him about his junior days. If you're not familiar with Nick, he had a stellar junior and amateur career. He won the 2006 BC Junior, 2006 Canadian Junior, 2007 Canadian Amateur, 2009 Sahalee Players Championship. I think you still got the lowest round for an amateur in the U.S. Open at 65 at Bethpage Black. I don't think that's been beaten.
Yeah.
And so, and then had all kinds of college awards, won the Ben Hogan Award, the Mark McCormick Medal, and then turned pro in 2010. And, as soon as you won the PGA Tour, you won the Sanderson Farms, which had to be a big thrill. Maybe we can talk about that. And then, of course, you had a big 2020 with I guess what they call your first full field win at the AT&T, which was exciting for everybody to watch. I know I watched it. I was really excited to watch you beat Phil Mickelson down the stretch there. You cracked the top 100 in the world rankings and got to play your first Masters, even though it was in November, a little different. But so everybody, this is Nick Taylor, one of the best players that Canada's ever produced, and we're just going to have a chat.
Right.
Welcome, Nick.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about just, I know I actually didn't know until I looked up your Wikipedia that you were born in Winnipeg, but you moved pretty young when you to Abbotsford? Or?
Yeah, I was between 2 and 3, so I grew up in BC.
Yeah, for sure. When did you start playing the game? Do you remember?
Looking back, I believe I was about between 10 and 11. I played a lot of other sports growing up. Baseball was probably the longest tenure that I played, but volleyball, basketball, that kind of stuff in elementary school into high school. And my brother, 3 years older than me, he got a membership at LegU, I think when he was 13. So I was, I wasn't that interested yet, but when you're a younger brother and you see your older brother doing something, you get interested much quicker. And when he got his membership, it was actually full. I couldn't get a membership. And then I remember we went on a summer vacation, and when we got back, there was a message on the answering machine that I was able to join for the rest of the year. I think that was in August sometime. So that's when we jumped on it, and I was lucky enough to have four really good friends, kind of probably starting that next year, where we played a lot of golf together up there after school. For those first few years, it was probably mostly a summer type sport that I loved to play. And I think as I grew to love the game and such a competitive game that I loved it, that I think after grade 9 is when I had a good chat with my dad, but it was, if you want to pursue this, then kind of have to pick one sport and kind of go all in and put all your effort towards that. So after grade 9, I stopped playing other sports, and I was full golf at that point.
Cool. So, and then you started playing some tournaments kind of after that, or you already played some tournaments?
I did there was a Valley Golf Center. I did junior days there. Again, that was kind of in the spring and the summer. I remember there was the Bill Mawhinney Tour, which was once a week in the summer, and some of the junior stuff at LegU. So again, it wasn't a whole lot of tournaments. And I think maybe grade 8 is when I started playing kind of the zone championships. I was in zone 3. And I think my first BC junior I tried to qualify for, and I made it, but it was in grade 9. So it wasn't really until high school where I was playing consistently in tournaments, with the Maple Leaf Golf Tour and CJGA. So I would say grade 9 spring is probably when I really started to play tournaments for the bulk of the golf season.
Right. And do you have a memory of your first kind of tournament where you played well, or kind of got you hooked on that competitive liking to play tournaments?
Yeah, the Bill Mawhinney Tour was, we played for I think like a dozen of Pro V1s, which back then was a big deal. But just, the one-day tournament, the excitement of getting there and trying to win was always exciting. I think when I made my first BC junior, was actually at Dawson Creek, so it was well north of BC, and I made the cut, which was, I think, was a pretty decent accomplishment for my age, but I ended up playing poorly on the weekend. I might have finished bottom of the pack, and I remember being really disappointed. And, as a parent, my dad tried to put it in perspective that it was, he made the cut. That's a lot of stuff to work on, but I think that competitive edge kind of drove me to try to get better because, on the one hand, I was happy that I made the cut, but also disappointed with the overall finish. But that's one that I remember where, my, I guess, failure in a sense really drove me to play more and work hard. But, those one-day tournaments were always fun with the Zone 3 and the Bill Mawhinney Tour. So that's really when it got my competitive edge going.
Oh, that's great. Good to know that those little tournaments,
Yeah.
kind of, it's nice to know. I'm sure Bill would be, all the people that ran those tournaments would kind of be fun to know that,
Yeah.
They mean something. Do you remember trying to schedule your summers when you got to be a better player, like 2005, 2006? Do you remember trying to schedule your summers? Did you actually sit down and do it, or did you just kind of winged it?
Yeah, there's definitely a schedule. It was looking at a lot of it started probably in February, March when, like I said, the Maple Leaf Junior Tour schedule came out and CAGA. It wasn't until probably grade 12, whereas at that point where I thought you looked at the ones that were qualifiers for certain events. So one was the Junior Worlds in grade 11. That was one. Okay, I want to try to win this tournament so I can actually get into this tournament. And I was able to do a couple of those to qualify for the World Junior. And I was only able to try for the US Junior 1 year and went and was lucky enough to qualify and went to that. So there's a few scheduling that. Obviously, once you qualify, you have to juggle a few things. And, my parents were great for that. But my dad was good at sitting down and kind of what are the goals this year for what tournaments do you want to plan, and kind of picking a schedule for that. And obviously the staple events in the summer were with the BC Juniors. I didn't play BC Amateur, I don't believe, until maybe grade 11 or grade 12. I know more juniors now are playing at a younger age because they're probably a lot better, but
you didn't get your name on our trophy. I know you played well on a few BCAMs, but you never got your name on it. Too bad.
I know. But yeah, definitely there was a scheduling that you look at kind of the staple events. At that point, there wasn't an excess of tournaments, I felt like. So it was more so one a week. And if you're able to do them, you try to sign up for. I think now there's probably more selections. You might have to pick and choose a little bit more. That's more so what I do now.
Back when you were junior, sorry, was there a pull or a want to go down to play the AJGA stuff, or was that not on the map as much back then?
It was a little bit, but it's really expensive. And I never played one AJGA. It just wasn't really in the cards for our family. And I think the two big ones that I remember playing was the World Junior and the US Junior. Really big tournaments, ones where I think there's, if your goal, when I talked to my dad, probably grade 11 or grade 10, grade 11, where, it is the goal to have a golf scholarship. Those are two big tournaments where you're really hoping to get in. There's definitely a lot of recruiting going on at those tournaments. So, again, AJGA, I didn't play any. Lucky enough to qualify for those two tournaments that had quite a bit of eyes on them. But, everyone's situation is different. So I don't want to say you have to pay AJGA. Sometimes if it happens, it's great. But, winning spring tour events on the Zone 3 tour got my confidence. And, if guys are paying attention to that, which I think there is more recruiting in Canada than there used to be, winning anything is a big deal. So you don't have to play the big events.
Yeah, I think James Lepp and yourself and a few other guys have got the college coaches in the States looking up here definitely more than they used to. Way more than when I was playing. Well, I've got a few years on you. Were you recruited? Did you always want to go to the University of Washington, or was it a hard choice for you?
It wasn't a hard choice for me. I didn't have a whole lot of options. Like you said, the recruiting up in Canada wasn't a whole lot, and with me not playing a lot of events in the U.S., James Love really opened the door, I think, for a lot of BC kids. Matt Thurman was the coach there, obviously with James Lepp coming there. He kind of had that pipeline, and being close proximity definitely helps. But yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of options. And with the scholarship that they had offered, talking with my parents, it was doable, and went down there to play. So I loved, my small interactions with Matt Thurman before I'd gone there. I really enjoyed his company. I went to the facilities. Being close to home, far enough away from home, was important to me, where if I need to go home, I could. I didn't go home very often, but I like that. And the weather, a lot of people stay away from the Northwest because they're afraid of the rain or the cold weather, and that's what I grew up in. So that made me comfortable as well. So again, if I had options maybe in California, who knows where I would have gone, but options were pretty limited.
Was an option ever to not go to college, or was it you always had in your mind you were going to go to college?
Yeah, I always valued a college degree. I thought that was a great access. Obviously, golf was the main reason I went to the States to go to college. But yeah, I always thought that was the goal, play college golf. Even when I was in school, it wasn't really, I don't want to say popular, but it wasn't a usual thing for someone to leave, even if they're a great player in college, to leave early to turn pro. It was, everything's evolved in basketball and everything, leaving early to go pro. But, I enjoyed my time at school. I valued getting a college degree. And so that's, going down there was important.
Yeah, I can picture that for sure. Because you were number one amateur in the world in 2008, maybe, was it?
2009 actually was after
2009?
the US Open.
Okay, after the US Open, yeah. And then you turned pro in 2010. I guess you had graduated university, obviously, and then you did that. Yeah. So you took the more normal route, if you want to say.
Yeah. Definitely. It's funny looking back. I remember after 2009 when I played well at the US Open and had reached number one in the world, there was actually a few questions, are you going to go to your last year of college? And honestly, at that point, I never even considered it. And I never really did consider it, but it wasn't really a thought process for me where I'm going to leave early just to go play golf. I love being at school. And I've always been one, where I'm comfortable. I'm not a huge person that loves change, but yeah, like I said, I valued a degree. Golf was what I wanted to do after I went to college, but I thought it was, it was instilled in me that it was important to have a degree. That's backup. And luckily I haven't had to use it, but it's an accomplishment that it's cool to have a college degree for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And just, so people kind of know on the line, so you turned pro in 2010, you played the Canadian Tour and you think, boy, number one amateur turning pro, you're going to make the tour right away. But I don't think people realize just how tough it is to make that jump to the tour. Did you have to change your game at all, do you think? Or was there anything you really had to improve, even being number one amateur in the world to I guess it was 4 years later when you made it on the tour?
You know what? I coming out of college, I probably wasn't playing as well as I was when I was number one in the world, but I'd come down to Arizona for a couple of winters and, I think probably didn't have the right plan to improve and kind of probably got a little bit sidetracked and just got into some bad habits that I just wasn't playing as well as I know I could have. So I think it's so much different now, even, I guess it is 10 years later, but 10 years later, looking at people coming out of college, they've had top level coaching for quite some time. They have places to go practice and have the facilities are great. And that's one thing looking back, probably that I could have done better is a plan of, okay, where am I going to practice? Coaching wise, I work with Rob Holding as a junior, but he's based up in BC. So if I'm not there, it's tricky for that time to send videos. Even at that time, technology wasn't great at sending videos and stuff. So there was a couple year gap there where I felt like when I was away from home, I probably almost got worse because I was working on the wrong things, thinking that I might have been doing the right things and bouncing back and forth. But having a plan, of what to practice, what to work on. And back to your question, there's plenty that I definitely needed to work on. The caliber of play, even going from college golf to the Canadian Tour, is definitely a jump. But there's just a few things that were my strength that I lost a little bit and just needed to get back to basics and just have a path of what I was trying to work on.
I guess I kind of skipped forward. You did play on our national team for 1 or 2 years. I
played the junior national team in grade 12, and then the last 3 years of college, I was in the national team.
You're on the national team, yeah. That was a good experience traveling with the team.
Yeah, it was great. I played in the World Amateur. I played in the World Juniors in Japan in grade 12. I played a lot of amateur events that were great. Again, when I turned pro, they still hadn't done the young pro squad, which I think has been awesome for a lot of those guys. Not only financially when you turn pro, but also just Derek Ingram being able to travel around, help guys out, again, keep them on track. Can be overlooked, and it's just a huge asset for those guys to have, to keep kind of going where they're trying to go, and Derek's great at doing all of those things. So that's been a huge success. You can see it with Corey, Mack, Taylor Pendrith, plenty of guys that have been on that team that are having a lot of success now. So I think that it's no surprise.
Yeah, I think that was a gap in Canadian golf. I used to talk about it 20 years ago in terms of all of a sudden you turn pro and you're kind of left on your own. I think Golf Canada is trying to do the best they can. It's a tough thing though. Yeah, it's an individual sport, and you have to find your way through. And that's why I wanted to get your perspective on that. I'm going to assume you still get nervous sometimes playing a tournament. Do you remember when? Is it the same now as it was when you were a junior? Is it different or?
It's different but similar. You know, I've always been one. I felt like the lead up is where I'm most nervous. It might be the sleep the night before. It might be on the first tee. I've always seemed to be pretty good at settling into the round. You know, a hole or two in. But no, I remember playing a CJJ event. Maybe when I was playing, you know, getting pretty good, but still into it, and having a decent lead going the final day and blew it. And, you know, trying to learn from that, but it was devastating at the time. But yeah, it's a different element now because there's crowds, there's cameras, there's different stuff like that. But it's experience. You can't buy some of the experience. So yeah, of course I still get nerves. It's different now with COVID, with no fans. But, you know, this week, for example, next week is the Waste Management, and that 16th hole with typically 5,000 to 10,000 people there. Your adrenaline gets pumping for that hole. Doesn't matter how long you've been on tour or what circumstances you've played in. You have nerves for sure. So it's different level, but they're never going to go away.
Yeah. For the juniors in line, I think it's good for them to hear, you know, you blew a lead. I mean, it is, you know, they look at you and think probably never had any adversity. I'm sure you had lots of adversity going through. And did you feel like your game has less peaks and valleys now, or do you still feel your game kind of goes a little bit up and down depending on what's going on?
Yeah, I think throughout an entire year, you're going to have ups and downs. You know, last year, again, was a strange year with what's going on, but I felt like my game was as good as it ever has been. And then, you know, once the summer came back and I was playing tournaments again, really struggled. Didn't feel like it was that far off, but it wasn't great. And then felt like at the end of the year, it started going back up, and I've been playing well the last few weeks. So it's never linear in a straight line of success. It's up and down, and you're hoping that it's a steady up and down, but you know, you're going to have one day you can shoot your best score ever, and the next day you might not be able to find the fairway. So it's never a steady up and down path. That's why golf can be so frustrating, but also it drives you to try to get better. So yeah, there's definitely peaks and valleys, and even you can say in my pro career, the first couple years were frustrating, but also at times played well when I was up in Canada in certain events. But you know, I felt like, again, if you're trying to improve, if you look back after the entirety of a year and you felt like you're better at the end of the year than the start of the year, then that's probably a successful year.
I've also noticed during your career, you know, I've you know, we all keep track of all you guys. You're not afraid of going low. You know, you shot that 65 at Bethpage. I think, what did you shoot in Hawaii? 62?
62, yeah.
62. Has that always been something, or did you used to get nervous when you got 400 or 500 par, or is it just something you've always been able to just forget about that and go low?
No, I think it's the barriers that you have to break through. I remember before I broke 80, for example, I shot 80 probably 6 times. And then when I broke through, I shot 76. First time I ever shot in the 70s, it was 76. And then I would shoot 70. I can't even remember how many times, where I'd be maybe 1 under, 3 to go, and I'd shoot 2 over or something like that. And then when I broke through, I shot 67. So it's always been kind of a barrier for me. And when I finally broke through it, I felt more comfortable. Again, with experiences, you're going to get better. But definitely something you need to work on with the mindset of keep going, trying to be in the present. You hear that a lot in golf. But, you know, if you're leading a golf tournament, or if you're through 12 holes and it's your best round ever by 2 shots, if you're already thinking about that stuff, you're already thinking ahead, and you're probably going to be distracted by what the next shot is. So I've gotten better over the years of not thinking too much ahead, or being the present, or trying to keep the gas pedal down. But it's not something that I don't think is natural. Some guys are really good at it, but I think everyone works on it to some extent.
Cool. That's great, Nick. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I'd be remiss, I think, if I didn't just ask you about the Masters this year. I know with COVID in November is so different, but had you ever played Augusta or been to Augusta before this year?
No, that was my first time there.
Really? And
yeah.
I know it wasn't April, but did it kind of meet your expectations? Did it feel the same did you feel like you knew it from watching on TV so much, or was it totally different when you got there?
Yeah, it was pretty much everything that you kind of see on TV. I think it was one place though where, you know, you have that hype up in your mind, and it met or exceeded every expectation. It's, as a facility and as a tournament run, there's not a detail that they missed or anything that's out of place, and that was really neat. When you go to the golf course, 10 was probably my most memorable hole when I look back on it, of how elevated that tee is, how much it curves from right to left. It was just a course where there's so many memorable shots, and I think a part of that is for watching on TV for so long. But so many unique tee shots, like 10, like I said, but 13, all the par threes are very distinct, it seems like, and the biggest thing that I was blown away by that I didn't know about, but they have a small pro shop there. And when you go out the door, the first hole is there, but it's so wide open. There's you can see the first hole, the 9th green, the 18th green, the 10th tee. There's a giant space where typically there's, I think, some vendors and spectators are all there. But you can see through the trees, you know, the 9th fairway. There's just so much of the golf course you can see from one vantage point that was pretty neat. And that really blew me away. But again, I had the experience of playing there without any fans, where typically, you know, there's thousands of people there. So, you know, I hope I go back there as soon as possible when there is full fans. I don't know if that'll quite be this year, but yeah, in terms of the golf course, there's quite a few guys that had played there a bunch that it wasn't playing the same, which is understandable being November and April. But the whole experience definitely, I would say, exceeded my expectations, because you hype it up for so long and you're so excited to be there for the first time. It was a very memorable week.
Oh, it's very cool. Again, appreciate your time, Nick. And we always, you know, it's always fun to watch people that, always fun to watch your name, see what you're doing, see you on TV.
Thanks.
I'm sure there's people on this call that grew up with you, and to see you out there doing so well. And, you know, I got, just as a person, I got to spend an afternoon with Nick one time, and you're such a gentleman, and you're so good with everybody that came to you. Great representative of BC and of Canada. So we really do appreciate it, and we wish you all the best in 2021, and hopefully we get to watch on the golf course when we get the spectators back.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Doug.
All right. Thanks, Nick.